All right. Hello, everyone, and happy Monday. Nick Marro, DFS here with DFS Jayhawk and Occupy Fantasy. As always, to help you break down tonight's 9 or 10 game slate, depending on which site you're playing on. 9 games on DraftKings, 10 over on FanDuel. We got the debut of Luca tonight over there. But yeah, Jayhawk, we got a lot to get through, man. We're going to do our best to go game by game. But any initial takes on the slate before we dig in?
Yeah, super interesting one. You mentioned it. Luca is officially making the debut tonight. Excited for that. I know Chuck's excited for that. So should be a fun night tonight. Bunch of news. Yeah, excited to break this one down with you, man.
Yeah, man, we'll go team by team like we always do. Definitely going to err on the side of just kind of going really quickly over teams that we don't need to talk too much about. Quickly at chat, we got Bop in here saying Superpool almost took down FanDuel tournament, finished fifth, so let's keep it going. Yeah, man, once you're hitting top 10, you're doing something right. Just keep scoring there, and luck will carry you the rest of the way. He's saying, "What's up, fellas?" Savage saying, "What's up?" And his Eagles were indeed very dominant last night. As a Giants fan, it pains me to say, but congrats to the Eagles and their fans. Definitely well deserved Super Bowl win there. And Landon here going through a nasty slump. Need a win tonight. So let's get it, Landon. A lot of good options tonight. What I will say about these huge slates, you should like every single play in your lineup. There's enough to kind of make that work. But let's get into it here. First game on the slate, we got the Hawks taking on the Orlando Magic. 3 games at 7 o'clock, so we can't necessarily skip this window and just build like we do sometimes. But yeah, 222 point total here on the Hawks side. Still no Jalen Johnson, obviously. Trey is in and available. No Gouye. So nothing too, I don't know, much to talk about as far as this team goes. Jordan Yang got hot, interestingly, the other day, part of that DeAndre Hunter trade. But really, man, just a tough spot for the Hawks. Obviously, Johnson's been out for a while. The prices have kind of adjusted. This team's healthier than they've been. I wouldn't mind getting to maybe some Trey, but other than that, man, I don't really feel great about this spot. Orlando's defense is one of the tougher matchups for opponents, especially a team like the Hawks who try to play quick when they can. So I'm not getting too much Atlanta. How about you?
Yeah, man. Right there with you, Atlanta. Just a very tough spot here. 223 total. I think most of these guys here, just like difficult to get to. You mentioned that Gorgeous. I call him Gorgeous Georges and Yang. Hit a couple of threes the other day, but I don't love this spot for him either. So I agree. It probably would be Trey Young here, but yeah, I'm looking elsewhere for the most part.
Yeah, they are getting Capella back. I know Nance had a few good games. But yeah, when this bench goes deep, they do flatten out minutes. So just not a team we need to spend too much time on. Let's get to the Magic now on the other side. Again, another team that's kind of getting healthy, or at least healthier. No Jalen Suggs. I did see that. Pulling up the injury report. We also have Nomo Wagner. He's out with an ACL. So that's redundant. But yeah, Franz and Paulo both look fine. I think the minutes caps are officially lifted. I don't know if the coach has said as much, but I don't really see any sort of limitations. Kind of opposite of the Hawks, though. This is a really good spot for these guys. They're going to be paced up. Definitely a few more possessions per game than I don't know. They're usually projected for. Franz has been kind of the more consistent of the two, but if they're going to play the same minutes, you're getting Paulo for a discount. I don't mind him as a tournament play. Both these guys are getting a lot of love, though. The other guy we got to talk about a little bit is probably Goga. Hasn't been playing all that well. The minutes are there, though, and again, just a really good matchup for opposing offense. I don't mind maybe mixing him in. Not going to sit here and say he's a core play. Kind of shocked by the KCP ownership. Um, don't think I'll be getting to him much. I really like Franz here. That's kind of it. I could definitely hear a case for Paulo or maybe Goga, but for me, it's just I think I want to get to some Franz here, not much else. How about you, Jayhawk?
Yeah, love Franz in this spot. I think he loves driving into the paint. I think he can facilitate in there tonight. So love Franz on both sides here. And then Paulo's fine as well, but you mentioned it. Franz has been much more consistent, at least as of late. So I do prefer Franz. I think Paulo still a huge ceiling in the spot, but
Yeah.
do prefer Franz. And then I love the Goga shout, 5K, 4% owned. We have a bunch of centers, but I see no reason why you can't mix them in this spot here. So yeah, pretty much aligned. Jonathan Isaac, I wasn't getting to projected for 6 and 3%. Same thing with KCP. I think we have better value plays here.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think we want to spend too much time talking about them. But on the Goga shout as well, he does have forward eligibility on FanDuel, which is kind of likely the reason he's so popular over there. But I do like the spot for him. Coming off a few shaky games, but against the Spurs in Denver, not really great spots for centers. This against Atlanta, much, much better. So let's get into another one of these 7 o'clockers here. We got Minnesota Timberwolves taking on the Cleveland Cavaliers. So the Timberwolves are a team we're waiting on some major news. I think both Conley and Edwards are still questionable. Last I saw, Edwards listed as a game time decision. I'm thinking Edwards plays here. I really don't have much to base that on other than the fact that he's still a game time decision. I feel like we'd already know he's out at this point with this being one of the early games. If this team's healthy, I'm still fine going to Naz Reid, obviously filling in for Julius Randle in the starting lineup. He's been solid. The price is up a bit, but probably not as much as it should be. In that same breath, I mean, Cleveland obviously not the best for opposing bigs, but I don't mind him. Not much else here I'm interested in if this team's healthy. I mean, you can make a case for Ant. Conley is cheap enough, but if they're out, I think we're going right back to Dillingham and Alexander Walker, who would be filling in the starting lineup if those guards are unavailable. So the bad news is we don't have this news yet. The good news is this is a 7 o'clock game. We will have it prior to lock. Do you have a hunch on this backcourt and how are you handling it either way?
Yeah, so huge news here once again. Ant and Conley both questionable. I think it's probably more of a 50-50 in my opinion. I think it's probably closer to that. And if they both play here, it's probably just Nas at his price. Yeah, but you mentioned it. If Anthony Edwards and or Conley misses, it could be a Dillingham season once again here. And then Nichols' price got bumped to 5K, but he's been really solid when Ants and Conley have been out. So for me, it's kind of a wait for this news and then update from there.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I will say, I mean, Alexander Walker's definitely flashed more of a ceiling than Dillingham. The prices came up on both, but would be very comfortable playing both of them in a lineup if both those guys are out. On the Cleveland side of things, no Dean Wade, no Isaac Okoro. So, again, one of the healthier teams on the slate. Minnesota, not the best matchup for opposing offenses, excuse me. Not seeing much ownership going to any of these guys. Again, it's because they're pretty healthy. You can make a case for the starters. Personally, I don't really see myself getting there. DeAndre Hunter should be available now off the bench. I don't necessarily want to play him, but that's probably going to cut into the minutes for some of these guys like Struz, Jerome, etc. So yeah, really nothing from Cleveland for me. How about you?
Yeah, Cleveland's pretty much close to a cross off here. Allen's picking up the most team here, 10% owned on DraftKings, but it's just not a spot I love here. Good total, but yeah, you mentioned it. They got guys here from trades. Hunter's in the rotation out, so very tough spot here to say any of these guys are priorities for me.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Yeah, I guess it would be the guards, Garland, Mitchell, but there's so many good ones on this slate. Like, I don't necessarily want to lock up those spots. We have one more 7 o'clock game here between the Spurs and the Wizards. Very healthy 237.5 point total. On the Spurs side of things, no significant injury news unless you consider Charles Bassey to be significant. We can start with them. Again, they went and traded for De'Aaron Fox. He's flashed some upside. I think the price on DK is tempting, kind of in the same range as those Cleveland guards, though, even in the better matchup. I just think he's good, not necessarily something great or jumping off the page. Wemby's Wemby. We're getting him around 10 or so percent on both sides here. Obviously, tremendous matchup. He hasn't really been hitting the ceiling we expect from him with Fox in the lineup. I think we will start to see that at some point. You're going to want to be ahead of the field when that does happen. And I mean, what better spot than today against the Wizards? I'm totally fine getting some Wemby if you can find the salary for it. I'm not going to say it's easy to do. He's really the one guy I have much interest in, though. I mean, Stephon Cassell, even moving to the bench, has been really solid value, playing plenty of minutes as kind of the first guy to check in off of that bench. And I don't know, Jeremy Sochan feels a little bit cheap, but at the same time, I think there's better value than him. So for me, it's Wemby all the way at the top. I don't mind maybe mixing in some Stephon Cassell. Around 5,400 on DK, 53 over on FanDuel. Just kind of like him because he has shooting guard eligibility as well. Not the best play, but again, if this game were to blow out, I do think he could get some run in the fourth. Are you playing any Spurs here tonight?
Yeah, I think the Spurs, in particular, both Wemby and Fox, I think they look pretty good here. You mentioned that with Wemby, though, really good matchup here against Washington. He has not been getting the value, but if there ever was a spot here, I think
Yeah.
it's probably in this matchup, man. Love him in tournaments. And then I think Falks is firmly in play as well. 10% owned, good price on DraftKings.
Yeah,
I like them both in tournaments, man. Good spot, huge total. And then in terms of the rest of the team here, Castle, Sohan, you said it. Sohan just he seems fine, but I think we have safer value. And
yeah.
then Castle 1% owned. I've always loved Castle as a player. And if I can find any reason to play him, I mean, I'm always gonna like to play him. So 1% owned. That's not a crazy shot at all, man. I like that.
Yeah, he's been super productive again off the bench. The minutes have been there for him, which is really what we're looking for. He can be a little bit more aggressive when he's not playing with Chris Paul all the time. Over on the Wizards side of things, Kaishan George is back and available. Still no Chris Middleton yet. Alex Sarr, Marcus Smart are going to be out, as is Anthony Gill. Sadiq Bey, ACL surgery, one of those guys that we're saying every day, but is never really relevant this season. But yeah, man, the Wizards, it's kind of funny since they traded Kuzma. It's not like they're winning a bunch of games, but they have been a little bit more competitive. I mean, we're seeing more usage go to the likes of Jordan Poole, Bilal Coulibaly. With this rotation super thin, I can't sit here and say it's a great spot for Rashawn Holmes as a starter, but I do think he's one of the more appealing value centers on the slate, even against Wemby. Again, just a little bit cheap for what we have him for in terms of minutes, just under 28. Consistently hitting value at his price. Again, not smashing through any sort of ceilings. It's not like you need him, but I do think his floor is higher than a lot of the kind of 4 to 5K value we have available. Other than that, it does get kind of tricky. We've seen Bub Carrington starting. He's been putting up numbers, but with Kaishan coming back, maybe we see those deflate a bit. It's tricky, man. I don't really ever want to play these Wizards, but on a slate where we're kind of waiting for more value to open up, I do understand maybe mixing some of these guys in. Right now, I definitely think I get to some homes on DK, probably some Koulibaly on both sites. I don't know. George and Carrington are tempting. I'm not there quite yet. How about you? How are you handling these Wizards?
Yeah, man. It seems like what for the third slate here, Washington is chalk.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think starting out with Jordan Poole, 7,100, had a pretty tough matchup last game against Dyson Daniels, but here against San Antonio, I think he looks pretty good here. 238 total. I think Poole looks awesome in tournaments. And then Rashawn Holmes, you mentioned it. He's pretty solid for value. Tough matchup against Wemby, but he's still super cheap. So I think he's totally fine. And then as of right now, I'm trying to get away from Carrington and Kaishan. I think they're
Mhm.
both fine, but I hate when they're chalk. So I think they're both fine, but I'm hoping I can get different value that I can get away from this.
Yeah, man. I mean, I tend to agree. Like, I do think we hopefully get some of this news to break our way and we don't have to play these guys. But since Kuzma's been gone, they've been super productive. And again, these are the types of young players we look for on these bad teams that would play in a blowout anyway. So I do have my eye on Carrington and Keyshawn George. Like I said, I do trust Koulibaly more. He's more expensive, though. But again, I would love to find reasons to get away from popular Wizards if we can. But yeah, right now they do look pretty damn good. Jordan Poole, who you mentioned as well, definitely has plenty of upside here and a pretty good matchup. Let's check out the chat and we'll get to these 7:30 games. Landon saying, oh, this was from earlier. We got Unicorn saying good evening as always. Spread just moved half a point Miami. Yeah, Power. I think someone's sitting, but we also did just get word that I think Wiggins and a couple other guys are available from those trades. And yeah, Jalen and Tatum didn't go through shoot around, but the report is it was optional. So we're gonna have to wait and see on that. Landon saying it's probably Tatum. A lot of speculation about what's going on with this Boston team. And again, they missed shoot around Brown and Tatum, but it was an optional shoot around, so it's tough. Usually we'd look into that pretty deeply. What do we think about Nah? Projected for 28 minutes if they play. Yeah, so Alexander Walker is getting more run because Nas Reed's starting, taking up the Julius Randle minutes. Nas kind of falling into some of the backup minutes there. I don't mind him, Unicorn, but I would much rather one of these two be out to feel great about it. Jayhawk, if those guys are in, do you see yourself getting into any Alexander Walker?
Man, that's that's difficult. I think I'll
Yeah.
probably be mostly away. But 28 minutes, man, he's a good producer. I don't hate it in like some tournament shots, but definitely would prefer him if those guys hit.
Yeah, Power bringing up a good point. Poole and Fox were both in foul trouble last game. Yeah, we try not to look too much into what just one game examples as we describe them, but yeah, Poole I think had 5 fouls. Like for a lot of that game, which is kind of insane. Buddy Hield on DK Courtney. We'll get to that one. As long as he's starting, I think that's a pretty good shout. But let's get into the 7:30 window now. And we'll start with the Celtics. We get the Celtics taking on the Miami Heat. 215-point total here. Pretty tight spread. We did get word that Tyler Hero is going to be out, but we also got word that Davion Mitchell, Kyle Anderson, and Andrew Wiggins are going to be available. So I don't know. I refreshed the model a few minutes ago. I'll hit refresh here again because I'm kind of curious to see what starts to pop for Miami now. Obviously, Wiggins coming in is going to fill some of the void that's left by Hero being out. But other than that, I do think this probably provides a little bit of upside for guys like Bam, maybe Rozier, Duncan Robinson. At the same time, a matchup with Boston really not something we're ever chasing. But yeah, looks like Rozier is getting a lot of love, especially on DK where he's sub 5K. As long as he's starting, I think that makes sense. Probably going to have to play around 30 minutes. And it is his former team if you're into that sort of thing. Wiggins, I don't know how many minutes we can expect from him. He's missed a few games. We have him projected for 30. I think that's safe. At his price, he's honestly playable. Not someone I'm really rushing to get to, but if you're landing on him as like a last piece in, I think that's fine. I mentioned Bam. I do think he looks good here. A little bit extra usage for him goes a long way. As good as Boston is defensively, he's had some success in this matchup in the past. But yeah, man, I don't know. Khalil Ware, he's kind of hot or cold, boom or bust. I don't mind him. We just have so many centers on this slate. I don't know that we necessarily need to go there. For me, I do like Terry, and I do think Wiggins is under-owned if he's going to play at least 30 minutes. But at the same time, it's Boston, right? One of the lower totals. I don't know that we need to chase anything here. But how are you handling these Miami Heat?
Yeah, first of all, Boston's been struggling, man. 5 point spread. You would have thought this line would be higher in favor of Boston, but they've been struggling heavy here. Terry Rozier, 4.8K. I think he looks pretty solid here. Definitely a guy I think that boosts here heavily without Hero. Even in a tough spot here against Boston, I think Rozier looks great here. And then Jovic and Bam, I think they're both fine. You mentioned Bam as a solid center play. I think we probably just mix them in tournaments. Bunch of great center plays. So mix in Bam and then Nikola Jovic. I want to hear your take. You might have covered him, but 16% should boost here without a Hero as well. I think he looks solid in tournaments as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing a ton of Jovic ever since Butler's been out, but now I'm like, do we have to wait and see a little bit now that Wiggins and Kyle Anderson and Davion are going to be in the rotation? I don't know that Anderson and Mitchell are like a big part of this team's future. Wiggins definitely is, though. Obviously, he's a big part of that trade. He's kind of filling in that Jimmy Butler role, and we've been getting extended minutes from Jovic with Butler out. So I don't know. We have him for what, 29? I think that's pretty safe. I don't mind him, man, and it's more just because the price hasn't moved, especially on DK at 5,300. I think he's okay here. At the same time, I'm a little bit kind of, I don't know, spooked because we got a few new guys in this rotation with Hero out today. Hopefully that offsets. I'm glad you brought him up. I've been bringing him up every Miami slate. I forgot today, so kudos to you, man. I do like some Jovic for sure.
Have to bring him up, man. That's a Nick Marro favorite right there.
Yeah,
Nikola
man.
Jovic.
Yeah, he's been a beast for me lately. He just fills that spot, and like no one seems to be playing him just because he's coming off the bench. Today, though, we're seeing that love, and maybe people are expecting him to start. I think we're going to see Wiggins just slide right into the starting lineup, so we'll have to wait and see. I kind of hope Jovic continues to come off the bench. It wouldn't make me like him any less. Over on the Boston side, like we said, we're still waiting on a lot here, so it's kind of tough to talk through. But Tatum and Brown both questionable. Again, they missed shoot arounds. But we do know that it was an optional shoot around. So we can't look too deeply into that. If either of these guys are out, though, it's going to be a big boost to Porzingis, White, Pritchard, regardless of whether Pritchard were to start or not. I already like Pritchard tonight coming off the bench because we know that Drew Holiday is not going to be available. But yeah, man, this is kind of a wait and see. I do think if we get both Brown and Tatum out, which seems unlikely, White and Porzingis would become like core plays. I already like Pritchard as a tournament play, but if one of those guys are out, it definitely helps Pritchard's upside as well. Luke Cornett's kind of flashed ridiculous upside lately at 40 fantasy points against the Knicks in 28 minutes. I don't want to look too deeply into that, but if you're looking for cheap value, and we do get word that, say, Tatum's out as well, maybe his minutes are a bit more secure. But they're going to start big with Horford next to Porzingis, obviously matching up against Bam and Ware. But yeah, Cornette's going to be the first big off the bench, so I don't think that's crazy. Really no interest in the Hauser, who does have upside, but Never a play I'm excited to get to, even if Tatum and Brown are out and he's starting. I do just like to fade him, and like I always say, it hurts me one every five Hauser slates that he's popular. I'm happy to just play those odds throughout the season. But yeah, man, kind of tough to talk through this team till we have this news. I think it's kind of 50-50. Again, no shoot around, but it was optional for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think first of all, without Horford, I haven't been playing him as chalk. He's been like sub 20% the past few slates. I just I preferred other guys here for value.
Yeah, I don't
So
like it. Yeah.
yeah, I don't like it either, man. 3,900, don't love it. And then love, love, love the Pritchard child. Anytime he's low owned and they're without guards or Tatum or Brown, love him here. So great shout there. Even better if Tatum and Brown sit.
Yeah.
And then Derek White, 5% owned. Were you getting to any of him? I don't love it here, but yeah, I think he's just okay.
Yeah, I mean, he only played 25 minutes the last two games, still shot pretty well. I think he's good. Like I said, we already have Drew out. If like Jalen or Tatum are out, though, I think he's going to be
Yeah,
really tough to get away from. Right now, I like him. I'm surprised he's not a little bit more popular, but again, this game does have one of the lower totals, so I wouldn't tell anyone you're like forced to play him, kind of regardless of who's in or out here. But he is someone who generally benefits more than some of these other guys if we do get another starter be ruled out. And yeah, to your point, I'm not playing any Horford, man. It's good he's starting though. He takes up zero usage, and all these other guys can go off a little bit more.
100%. I love it. He just sits in the corner, man, takes his
Yeah,
threes, and
yeah, it's
yep.
funny he's playing like a 3 and D role, like he's a wing out there. It's pretty strange. Let's see. We got another game at 7:30. The Hornets taking on my Brooklyn Nets. So over on the Charlotte side of things, Diabate is questionable. Mark Williams is out. That trade got canceled, which is kind of hilarious. Hopefully he's healthy. Josh Green questionable. No trade man Brandon Miller or Josh Okogie. Nick Smith questionable as well. So this team's pretty banged up. Oh yeah, Isaiah Wong too. Not that he's some huge rotational piece or anything, but would get some backup point guard minutes. LaMelo, strangely, the one guy not on the injury report. I think we have to like him here against the Nets. Excuse me. We have him for 35 minutes. Yeah, it's been a while since he's not the guy on the injury report. I think it's a good sign. Probably good to go here. If no one wants to play him, some 10%, some 5%, I definitely think we should be mixing him in. Bridges' price is way up now, but he's another guy I do think we could probably mix in as well. Those two are very appealing. Nick Smith pushing 20% to me is absolutely insane. I know he's coming off a few big games, but I don't know, man. I never seem to get this guy right. Are you playing any Nick Smith? I'll throw it over to you here. I'm already hung up. This guy just throws my mind for a loop. I never play him, and then he becomes chalk. I try to chase the field, and it just never seems to go right. But he's been shooting lights out. Are you getting Nick Smith, and how you handle the rest of the Hornets?
Yeah, so Nick Smith, I've been kind of up and down too. Typically, I like to play him either when he's super cheap or when LaMelo sits. So I think he's fine at 4K, kind of just like neutral to him. 20% is kind of chalky, but he's pretty cheap though. So definitely, I think he's just okay to be honest with you. And
Yeah.
then I do want to cover Yusuf Nurkic here because he's 3,900. Diabetes is questionable here. 8% owned. Diabetes. If uh if if he sits Diabate, I think Yusuf Nurkic, man, 3,900. I want to see his minutes, but he should project out super good. And then you already know the drill. LaMelo Ball, 3% owned. I think he's under all man. Even against your Nets here, low
Oh, yeah.
total, still LaMelo Ball, so he's got a huge ceiling. Yeah, so like LaMelo, love Nurkic if die body sits, and yeah,
Yeah, I'll say this. If Diabate's in, I think he's a really good play. He left against Detroit, injured, never came back. It was a face injury. Usually when it's a face, they can just wear the mask and they're fine the next game. So we got to wait and see there. But to your point, if he's out and Nurk starts, Nurk's going to be the value center of the night. We already have Holmes, who we talked about, but I think Diabetes like pretty much the same play if he's in. But if he's out, yeah, it's going to quickly become Nurk. Even if we only get 20 to 25 minutes, that's probably enough for him to hit value on DK. On FanDuel 5,500, I don't think we have to go there. Um, 6,100 for Diabate on FanDuel, kind of ridiculous. But the Charlotte Centers are certainly a conversation worth having over on DraftKings. Over to the Nets here. We did finally buy out Ben Simmons, so he's no longer with the team. Boyan out. Claxton is in and available. No Clowney or Melton. D'Lo, who was listed as questionable, sounds like he's going to be available. Cam Thomas should be back soon. He's still out as well. So yeah, the tricky thing with the Nets, man, they've been playing pretty well. They're more competitive than they should be in a lot of these games. But Jordy Fernandez is kind of flattening the minutes. I say it every slate, at least the past couple weeks. The only guys who he's consistently giving over 30 minutes have been Zaire Williams and Keon Johnson. And even then, we're seeing at times they're getting limited. Like D'Lo can be on fire, and he won't put him in until like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Like you cannot project anyone on this Nets team for over 30 minutes right now, which makes them kind of unplayable. They want all these guys to get some run. So if you're looking at the bench, like if you're desperate for value, maybe these other centers aren't appealing to you. Day'Ron Sharp is someone you can maybe mix in. Tosan has been a guy that I know Smitty's had a lot of success with this season. These guys are all going to play 24-ish minutes. I'm very comfortable as the only Nets fan in the world sitting here and saying there's no Nets you really need to be playing on tonight's slate. I don't think any of these guys are probably going to kill you if you're not getting to them. But are you getting to any of Brooklyn?
Yeah, man. Once again, I would love to play Nets here. Just not really getting to them. I think the guards here, Keon and D'Lo, obviously project out the best and the most chalkiest here. Keon, 9% owned, 5,100. He's been pretty solid. You mentioned he's been playing pretty consistent minutes on a team that's been not playing consistent minutes. So
Right.
I think Keon looks solid. If you want to mix in D'Lo, I think it's fine. I want to hear your take here. Nick Claxton, 1% owned, Bigs against Charlotte. I don't think it's crazy. I don't know if I'll get there, but would you get to any Nick Claxton tonight?
I mean, there's a case to be made for him. Personally, I'm not going to, just because I think I'd rather go to like the Holmes or the Diabates for a little bit cheaper. I'm heavier on DK. On FanDuel, actually like paying up at center a little bit more. But yeah, man, he played 30 minutes against Miami. That was a game that we were winning and they were competitive in. But that was the first time he's played 30 minutes in like 4 weeks. I don't know if that's like not 4 weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks. But I don't know if that's because Simmons is gone now or what. But it's not like Simmons had really been cutting into his minutes anyway. So it's a weird spot. If I was confident he was playing 30, I would say he's a great play. I'm just not confident in what Jordy's doing right now in terms of these rotations. They change every single game. It's impossible to follow. And I'm probably trying to follow more than most. It's just been a complete mess. So if you're getting to him as like a last piece in on DK sub 6K, fine. But I'd rather go to even cheaper, like Diabate, Holmes, maybe even Goga against Atlanta. These are all cheaper options in Clax.
Yep, I agree there.
Cool. Let's take a quick look at chat, and we'll get into the 8 o'clock window. Make a pretty decent time. Struce is out. I don't know that it changes much for me as far as Cleveland goes. Does it change much for you? Maybe a few more minutes to someone like Ty Jerome. But again, they have DeAndre Hunter available off the bench now. But is Struce changing anything for you?
Yeah, I think you nailed it pretty much. Maybe Ty Jerome, minor bump. Maybe Sam Merrill too. Maybe we give him like a minute or two more, but yeah, not too much. It doesn't bump Cleveland too much, I think.
Yeah. Bobby Portis birthday narrative. We were already going to love Bobby Portis tonight. Dame late Q now as well. We'll talk about that game in a bit. And yeah, Portis up to 8-5 on FanDuel. If Dame's out, I still think you could play him. As gross as that sounds, but on DK, he's definitely one of the better plays on the entire slate. Yeah, power no Mark Williams. I beat you off the game early. Like I said, it was a face injury. I think he can probably throw on the mask and be good to go. But if he's out, definitely get to some Nurk. Yeah, Eric Rozier at 4,800. He's going to be the guy for Miami with Hero out. Michael Newcam here saying Nurk's a nice dart throw. So yeah, good shout on him, man. It sounds like he's getting some love. Savage always having zero Rozier. I don't think that's hurt you too many times as a Savage. Usually that's not the worst thing, especially if he's going to be popular. But again, they are thin. They do have Wiggins, though. I think Wiggins, if he stays 1%, someone I want to be getting into some lineups. Yeah, Nurkic, more of a DK play unicorn. Don't really love that price, even if Diabate's out. Game time decision for JB and Tatum, expected news at 7:30. Yeah, guys, if you're in the Discord, we always have guys kind of digging through Twitter to find news. Like if they're warming up or not, we'll probably know before that news comes out. So more reason to get in there. And yeah, Hornets been bad versus bigs. They're better with Diabate in there, but generally speaking, yes. Diabate, appreciate that, Demetrius. I think I'm getting it right. Um, Running through these names sometimes, where my brain goes to mush though, and then anybody else DraftKings not working. Anthony, I hope that it's working for you. I hope mine is working. I'm not going to check right now, but yeah, usually they get that stuff ironed out pretty quickly. All right, let's get into the 8 o'clock window now. We got the Warriors taking on the Milwaukee Bucks. Big news for the Warriors is that Steph Curry is questionable. Kuminga is going to be out through the break. Nothing else on the injury report, though. So they're a little bit healthier than they have been. Obviously, made some moves. They got Butler in here now. Looked pretty good in his first game, so hit the ground running. Seems to be pretty happy for how long, who knows. If Curry's in, I do think he's underpriced. Fine getting to him. Probably not getting to Butler where he's priced, but wouldn't fault someone if you're kind of getting a few percent exposure. Buddy Hield's name came up earlier. I think he looks good, assuming he's going to continue to start. Um, but again, they're getting Moody, Payton, a few of these other guys back. I think Hield's still their guy. They like him as the spacer out there. He's been shooting the ball really well. But I'll just say this: if Hield's in and starting, he's a good play. If he's not starting, proceed with caution. Those minutes could go away really quickly. And then as for Curry, if he's out, it's probably going to be Podzemski that benefits the most. You can even consider Pods as kind of a tournament flyer right now, or so on DK where he's sub 5K. I won't be getting to him if Curry's in, but if Curry's out, Pods is the guy you're probably going to want to get more exposure to. So really, it's the backcourt. I mean, you could make a case for Draymond, but for me, I like Hield as long as he's starting. I like Curry if he's in it. If Curry's out, it's going to be Pods. Jayhawk, how are you handling these Warriors here?
Yeah, Nick, this is the game to target tonight, man. Love this game in general. Yeah, so waiting on Steph Curry's news here for Golden State. I think he probably plays coming off that huge game here against Chicago. So I think if he plays here, I think he looks great both sides here. And then if he doesn't play, I think you mentioned that both Pods and Buddy Hield, I think would both look great here. Good spot for shooters. So would love both those guys. And then after that, Jimmy Butler, 2% owned. If Curry misses, maybe take a stab there. He looked pretty solid in their first game on Golden State. So like Jimmy at
Yeah.
2% if Curry doesn't play.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's got upside, man. A little bit extra usage for him goes a long way. And this Bucks matchup definitely a little bit softer because we have no Giannis tonight. So I'll use that as kind of a segue into Milwaukee here. Taking a look at the injury report, we have Dame is questionable. Gonna have to wait and see on that one. Lopez probable. Pat Connaughton questionable. Giannis is out. So with Giannis out, we know the drill. We always go to Portis. We always go to Lillard. But FanDuel caught on, and now Portis is 8,500 over there. If Lillard's in, I mean, that's a tough click. He does have 40 to 50 point upside, which is what you kind of need at 8,500. But at the same time, he's not really the lock, quote unquote, that he has been in some of these spots in the past. We seen him go for 60 plus 2 of his last 3 games. If he's going to go for 60 here, you can still play him at 8,500. I'll say that. So if Dame's out, I do still want to get a little bit of Portis on FanDuel. Regardless, though, if Dame's in or out on DK, 6,300, way too cheap for what he's doing. Absolutely love him here. And then Kyle Kuzma as well seems a little bit rejuvenated. Probably not going to match Portis in terms of his ceiling, but at his price, he doesn't really need to. I like him on both sides as well. These two are core plays for me. If Dame is in, throw him in that category. He's had some big games against Golden State in the past. Not that we need to look deeply into this matchup, but yeah, need to like Milwaukee here. It's definitely Dame if he's in, definitely Portis, more so on DK, and then Kuzma on both sides. I will say if we get word that Dame's going to be out, it's probably Ryan Rollins that gets the start at point guard. He'd be pretty appealing as value, but at the same time, I don't know. If he's super chalky, maybe you could look to get elsewhere. But on paper, he's going to look really solid again. No Giannis either does create a little bit of a vacuum for usage, but it would just make me want to get to more Kuz and more Portis than anything. We could always mix in Lopez as well. Never gets the love that some of these other guys do with Giannis out, but he has shown that he is ceiling as well. So yeah, man, I'm gonna sit here and say Kuzma's a core play on both sides, which sounds absolutely insane. But hey, new team, new Kuz, and then Portis on DK for sure. If Lillard's out on FanDuel as well, but Lillard on both sides if he's in. How are you handling Milwaukee?
Yeah, just funny note here with Kuzma and Portis. Kuzma on Sunday was 3,800, and
Yeah.
then on DraftKings, and now FanDuel price Portis to 8,500. So different thoughts there from both sides respectively. But yeah, I think Kuzma and Portis both look awesome here. Portis on DraftKings, let me specify that. Yeah, so love Kuzma and Portis either way if Dame plays or if he misses. And then the guy I want to shout here, if Dame does miss, he's not in the model. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get, but Kevin Porter Jr., 4,300.
Oh yeah. Interesting.
Plays 20 minutes tonight at his price or 4K flat, shooting guard eligible in DraftKings. I think we're gonna have to maybe consider him as well, in addition to Rollins. So if Dame plays, I think he looks awesome. But if he does miss, I wanna play Kevin Porter and Rollins here.
Yeah, historically, Porter can be a beast when he's given the minutes. So I'm really happy you brought his name up. And if he were to get the start over Rollins, I'd be more comfortable playing a starting Porter Jr. than I would a starting Rollins. So take that for whatever it's worth. Definitely a situation we need to keep an eye on. One of the other situations we were keeping an eye on, the Boston Celtics, we got word that Tatum is in. Jalen Brown is out tonight. So we are going to have to like Tatum now. Going to be a little bit of a boost to someone like Porzingis as well. I think those two look good. Derek White. But yeah, Tatum, I mean, he really hasn't been shooting the ball that well, but he spiked some ceilings against Philly at 66 points, 56 against the Knicks last game out. I mean, Tatum has to look really good here now. But with Brown out, what is this changing for you? I think I need to get to some Tatum now. Already love Pritchard, Porzingis, probably a little bit of Derek White too. But how are you handling the Celtics with this news?
Yeah, so this is difficult. I think Tatum probably my favorite with Brown out, but I will say I think Derek White does get a pretty big bump here without Brown as well.
Mhm.
So a minor bump here to Derek White, and then I think Pritchard as well, maybe a minor bump as well, just more shots off the bench. So I'd probably say those three for the most part. But yeah, Tatum's 10K. Do you think he can get it done tonight, man, against Miami? I think he probably can, even at that price point.
Yeah, I think he's definitely capable.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think of like what I'm wanting to pay up for tonight. Like Jokic is tough to get to. Obviously, if we can get to him, we do it. But some of the better values at center, I'm fine kind of coming in under on Wemby until him and Fox figure out what they're doing together. I think in the long run, he'll be fine. He's going to be that ceiling player again. But to be paying 12K for him on FanDuel, 11 on DK, I'm hesitant. Luka's Luka, first game back though, pretty comfortable, not rushing to that. LeBron hurt by the Luka presence a little bit. So like we're already down this list to Tatum, and this was before the Jalen Brown news. So like yeah, I think Tatum looks excellent here. How much I get to him probably depends on Dame Lillard in a weird way. If Lillard's in, probably going to be the guy over 9K I have the most exposure to. But if Lillard's out, I mean, what else are we spending on? Probably get a little bit more Jokic in our lives. Maybe take a few more shots on guys like Wemby. But for me, Tatum looks excellent now. I think he's probably pretty easy to get to with Dame as well. If you're doing kind of like a mid range or still kind of paying up, but a bit more of a balance build than if you're trying to jam someone like Joker or Wemby. But yeah, man, I like him a lot. Definitely want to look into it and see how the model kind of reflects this news. But just given the makeup of the slate, we have the pay ups. It's just, I don't know. They're not really in the best spots. And with the Lakers kind of adjusting for their new roles, Wemby as well, it makes things a little bit tougher to project.
Yep, I agreed. The early studs are just tough to plan with all this late news. So
Yeah, yeah. At least till the Dame news. Like once we have that, I think we can make a lot of decisions. But until we have that, things are a little bit difficult. That game at 8 o'clock. Another game at 8 o'clock. We have are the Pelicans taking on the OKC Thunder. Pelicans side of things. No Brandon Boston. No Bruce Brown. No Herbert Jones. No CJ McCollum. That's a big one. No Dejounte Murray or Kelly Olynyk either. Jose Alvarado. Since Murray's been down, we've wanted him to be a thing. I think tonight he finally is going to be a thing because again, no CJ, no Boston either. They're very, very thin in the backcourt. So Alvarado looking like chalk right now. I think he's a great play on both sides. Pretty tough to get away from, in my opinion. Definitely my favorite guard value until maybe we get some news that changes things coming out of Milwaukee. I will say this: I trust Alvarado a little bit more than I do Terry Rozier. They're very similar plays. I think you could have them both in a cash game lineup, but that's kind of a decision point. Keep it on the ownership between those two. Zion continues to put up massive numbers even with limited minutes. I wish they'd just take the training wheels off him at this point. 53 fantasy points in 27 minutes last game out against the Kings. You can play him here. It's just, do you want to pay that much for him when we have guys like Damon Tatum for just a little bit more? Not sure I do. If I am going to pay that much for Pelican, it's probably going to be our boy Trey Murphy. I know you and I have both been super bullish on this guy all season, but he continues to produce. And with Murray obviously out and now McCollum out as well, he's going to be even more relied on here to keep this game close. So yeah, man, I know the spread's wide, but I do like the total. I do think New Orleans can be somewhat competitive in this spot. Alvarado, to me, one of the better value plays on the slate. I guess Hawkins would maybe be a pivot, but I've been wanting to play Jose, and I think today is finally the day. I'll be mixing in some Trey Murphy as well. Again, not the best matchup here against OKC, but I do like some Pelos. How about you?
Yeah, so assuming Alvarado starts here, I just want to throw a kind of a note. I think we did see one time Hawkins start over Alvarado. So
I think
assuming
you
Alvarado
both.
starts here, yeah, they could start both here. That's a good call.
Yeah.
I think it looks great here. 5K, have him projected for like sub 30 minutes here. So love him on both sides here. Super chalky on FanDuel, not
Yeah.
as chalky on DraftKings. So interesting note there. And then, yeah, Trey Murphy, man, couldn't say it better. 8,200, no CJ. I think he looks awesome here, even in a tough spot against OKC. And man, this Carlo Markovic, man, I
I knew
need
his
to
name was going to come up. Yeah.
start looking at this guy, man. Chalk on both sides, 24 projected minutes. Were you getting there? I wasn't getting there, but maybe I should.
As like a last piece in, I think he's fine. He's not going to start. He's going to come off the bench. We only have him for 24 minutes. His two big games. He's playing closer to 30. Only got 16 last time out against Sacramento, but they had a few of these guys available that are going to be out tonight. So I think he's fine. I just don't think you want to build your night around him. I don't know. It's like damned if I do, damned if I don't. I'm going to probably have him in a couple lower dollar lineups. He won't be in my bigger stuff. I can say that pretty confidently. But yeah, man, he's been a beast fantasy point per minute when he is on the floor. And also, if this game were to blow out, if you're thinking it might, obviously one of the wider spreads on the slate, he's someone who should play into the fourth quarter either way. So I do like him actually at his price. It's just, I can't say I love him. At this ownership. Like if no one was playing him, I'd probably be a little bit more interested. Definitely more so on DK where he's still sub 4K and sub 10%. But kid's been balling for sure. Can't deny that.
How can you not love Carlo Markovic, a guy that I just learned about 2 days ago?
Yeah, man. I mean, hey, historically, all these like Serbian and I don't know, I'm gonna butcher these countries. Apologies in advance, but these dudes that end in ick have been pretty damn good. We got Jovic, Jokic, etc. Maybe Makovic joining in that group. But on the other side of this game, we got the Oklahoma City Thunder. No Isaiah Joe. No Nikola Topic, another ick who has a lot of hype behind him. He's not going to be playing for a while though. Kaysen Wallace is out. AJ Mitchell as well. So they're missing a few pieces here, more kind of secondary guys that kind of fill out the rotation. Nothing too significant here for the Thunder. SGA, whenever he's low, same as LaMelo, like you could play him. I'm fine getting there. You need this game to stay competitive though, and they do have Chet Holmgren back. He's been playing every other game. He's going to be in tonight, which kind of cuts into the upside of all these guys. But yeah, I was gonna get to maybe some Wiggins with Joe out, but now that Chet's in, I don't think I get there. Jordan's missed a couple games as well if you're looking at game logs. So some of these secondary plays aren't going to be as appealing as they have been lately. For me, it's kind of can I get to a little SGA here? Maybe, probably not. Other than that, I'm pretty comfortable just not getting too much of OKC. Again, with Chet coming back, these guys just feel a little bit overpriced. How about you?
Yeah, I think OKC here. The thing I worry about is just ceilings for these guys, like with Chet Holmgren back. So I think SGA looks fine here. Don't love the price either side with Chet back here. So I'm just worried about getting to their ceiling at their prices. So I'm probably gonna be off OKC in with the 18-point spread. It scares me more. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. And like I said, I'm not getting to them either, so I'm not gonna argue with you on that one. We did get a bunch of news that came through. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. We're up against the clock right now, man. Time flies. We're going through these teams. So Diabate's in for the Charlotte Hornets. I think he looks good. Nick Smith's available as well. He's going to be popular. I'm not crazy about it. Then for the Timberwolves, Conley's out and Edwards is in. Isaiah Wong's going to be out for Charlotte as well. Not that that's major news, but yeah, kind of what we expected for Charlotte. Like I said, I thought Diabate would be back, just dealing with an eye injury. Minnesota, though, if you want to touch on this quickly, no Conley. I don't know if it's going to be Dillingham or Alexander Walker who gets the start. Whoever does, I think, is appealing. But Edwards looks pretty good here now that he's available. How are you going to handle that Minnesota's backcourt? I don't know who's going to start. Do you think it's Dilly?
I think it's yeah, they're starting Naw at the one. Alexander Walker. So that's interesting.
Oh,
For
I
sure.
like Nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of
Yeah.
hoping they would. I didn't think they would, but all right.
Yeah. So
Definitely going to get to some Nah.
I think Dillingham, I'm probably off here. 4K off the bench. He's still in play without Conley, but I feel like the minutes are way less secure, assuming Naw plays well here.
Yeah, Jalen Clark's been part of the rotation as well. I think they're trying to see what they have with him. They like Dilly. I mean, they drafted him for a reason. It's just, I don't know, how much upside does the guy have if he's not going to be the focal point on offense? All right, we got a few games to go through, like a rapid fire here. So I'll do this. We'll go Kings Mavs first. We're just going to talk about this game as a whole. And again, guys, I'm not going to be able to get to everyone in chat. I apologize in advance. Probably not going to have time for the dummy build today. Again, we got Jayhawk in Discord, but I do want to make sure we touch on all these games. So Kings Mavericks, nothing too significant in terms of injuries on either side, other than AT out for Dallas. It sounds like Max Christie and Dante Exum are questionable as well. So I take that back. A lot of moving parts here on Dallas. So on the Kings side of things, it's not getting to some Monk. He's kind of been okay. Levine being there, though, has cut into the upsides of DeRozan Sabonis. Not really crazy about anything off the bench. On the Dallas side of things, I think Gafford looks excellent. Again, with AD out, Washington's questionable. If he's in, he looks really strong. And then Kyrie's Kyrie, kind of priced where he should be. Obviously, no more Luka, but he does have upside if AD is not going to be available. Tricky spot if PJ's in. I like the front court. I think Kyrie's viable either way. Not much else I'm going to be getting to otherwise. Very high total there, though. Not a game to completely ignore. Real quick thoughts on the Kings and the Mavs there, Jayhawk, if you have any.
Yeah, I actually I'm very curious why Daniel Gafford isn't pulling more. Same on DraftKings.
Yeah, love him.
40% on FanDuel, no AD. And I agree. I think PJ looks great as well. Such a high total. I don't know if I'd play them both together, but I think they both look great at their prices. And that's mainly the guys I'm getting to here. The rest of Sacramento with Levine in, I don't love Sacramento here.
Yeah, again, another situation where they're trying to figure things out. They will. But for now, you're probably fine to just kind of not get too much of them. As far as DFS goes, okay, in the 9 o'clock window, we got the Trailblazers and the Nuggets. Let's see here. On the Trailblazers side of things, Jeremy Grant is questionable. Chris Murray and Robert Williams are both questionable. No Matisse Thybulle. So they're pretty healthy. This team, when they're healthy, they're kind of tough to get to. I mean, Denny has some upside. Aiton going to be on the floor here. Not a great matchup, though, against Denver. They're not popular. I think it's by design, or not by design, but it's for a damn good reason. Just a healthier team than they have been lately, all a little bit overpriced. Not the best matchup either going into Denver. Are you getting to any Portland? And then we'll touch quickly on the Nuggets right after.
Yeah, so Portland, it's so I want to say one of these guys here probably goes off just because it's Denver's defense here. I think Anthony's the chalkiest, but he's the perfect player to attack Denver here. So I actually do like Anthony in tournament 6,500, and that's a good price. And then the rest of Portland's I don't love even in a good matchup here. And
Yeah.
then do you want me to cover both sides, Denver as well?
I mean, I'll just
Or
rip
just
through the injuries. Gordon's probable. Murray's probable. Porter Jr. is questionable. Russ is out, obviously. But yeah, go ahead. Hit Denver.
Yeah, so Denver here, it's probably just Jokic, maybe some MPJ. He's been super good, but the price point is up. But yeah, if you can get up to Jokic, I think he's always great. He's been getting really unlucky with blowout the past few games, so he's gonna nuke in one of these games. So I want to be there when he does. If I can get up to him, obviously, love playing him. And then after that, it's not much love here from Denver for me.
Yeah, I mean Brown's price is up, as is Gordon. I think they're fine. If Porter Jr.'s out, I think they'll both look a lot better. I do want to say I'm never really getting into Strother anymore. We've had situations with him starting at point. Murray's available. No reason to play Strother here necessarily, but yeah, if you could get to Jokic, do it. I think he looks amazing. No one can find ways to get to him yet, but as more of this news breaks, maybe he does become a little bit more popular. That's it for the DK games. We can quickly touch on this last game. We got Utah taking on the Lakers. It is the debut of one Luka Doncic. On the Jazz side of things, let's see, no Colin Sexton, and that's it. So again, just a team who's been healthier than they have been for the most part. Jordan Clarkson, his price is up. I think on FanDuel you could get to him. John Collins, again, priced where he should be. Kessler definitely has some upside if no one's going to play him in center. I do prefer him on FanDuel where you're getting extra points for the stocks. But yeah, just another team who's healthier than they have been, which means they're mostly a little bit overpriced. Nothing on Utah that I'm crazy about. How about you?
Yeah, so this is a game I just want to get my popcorn ready and watch
Yeah.
Luka Doncic here and LeBron. Maybe Clarkson on FanDuel here, 13% owned, no Sexton, but I just want to see how Luka and LeBron play together. They're both fine to get to, I guess. Good prices on FanDuel, but yeah, more of just kind of just analyze how these guys look together for this game, at least.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it. AD demands a ton of usage next to LeBron. LeBron was still getting his. I mean, Luka's much more similar in his skill set to LeBron than AD was, though. So it is something we maybe need to wait and see on. But I will say, Luka cheaper on FanDuel than he has been for the most part. We've seen him up in the 12K range at times. This team, though, pretty healthy otherwise. Reeves is probable. They got Dalton Connect back after that trade went through or didn't go through. That's going to be awkward for sure. But yeah, man, I don't mind getting to some LeBron or Luca. That's probably going to be it for me from this team for the foreseeable future. But keep in mind, no Mark Williams. They're probably going to have to keep running out Jackson Hayes as the starting center. I'm fine using him on late slates as like a boomer bust play. High ceiling, but very low floor. Um, but yeah, any hot takes on Luca or LeBron tonight? Otherwise, we can kind of wrap up the game by game.
Yeah, I would lean Le- probably LeBron for his price, but it's so close, man. If we have Luca for 33 minutes, some normal minutes. Yeah, I'd lean LeBron, but it's super close.
Yeah, and just to touch on a few things we mentioned before, Alexander Walker getting the start from Mike Conley looks like great value for Minnesota now. Steph Curry is in and available. He's going to be a pretty good play. The Hawks starting Gouye at the 4 tonight, which is interesting. I don't mind mixing him in, but just know that those minutes are not necessarily secure, especially with guys like Niang, Nance, Levert coming off the bench. If any of those guys get hot shooting, they could take over. But again, Gouye, 22 minutes, 44 points, fantasy points on both sides his last time out. So value play, at least we're considering. Wizards look pretty normal. Holmes getting the start there again. And then same old from the Spurs. Quick look at chat, guys. I'm not going to be able to pull everything up. Just going to see if there's any really tough questions. Yeah, Power, your speculation hit shouts out. Hauser's probably going to start and score 12. Yeah, I never like playing him. DeAndre starting? DeAndre who?
Hunter, I think.
Oh, okay. Ooh,
Right?
that's interesting.
No, he's not. He's not starting. I don't think.
DeAndre Carter?
No, he is starting. He is starting. I'm sorry. He is starting for the Cavs. I thought he was on the Hawks. I forgot.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't love him, obviously, sharing the floor with all those guys. And then ZA cash plays just to kind of wrap things up. I'll do one quick refresh, and then we got to get out of here. No time for the dummy build today. Jayhawk, you only got 20 minutes in Discord. Hopefully that's enough. News
Plenty of
still
time.
pouring in. Yeah,
Plenty of
Kuzma Portis for sure from Milwaukee. There's EA. If Dame's in, he's another one. Terry Rozier getting the start for Tyler Hero looks like a pretty decent value play. I prefer Alexander Walker now, knowing that. Alvarado for the Pels, another guy you could kind of consider cash. Is there any other kind of core plays for you, Jayhawk? And then we'll get out of here.
Ooh, I'm not gonna say core, but I love Daniel Gafford on both sides. He's pretty close
I
for
love
me.
it. Yeah, and he's the most popular center on FanDuel, so I do think you could play him as a core or a cash play. But again, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Sorry we went over the time today. I think it was worth it. But yeah, let's crush tonight and just keep an eye on the news and the lineups. Things are ever changing in the NBA. Some of you sickos just wrapping up with NFL, gonna get your toes wet. I mean, all aboard, welcome in. Just make sure you are able to pivot before, during, and after lock. The news is always coming in for NBA. Just keep that in mind. But once again, take care, everyone. Have a great night. See you at the top.